It's been like I've been getting beaten over the head with this, but it's like attention is everything. Our attention is absolutely fucking everything. Like our attention creates our worlds, you know, and it's like, and we're so often caught up in the judgments of what's going on that we miss out on our lives that are happening right in front of us. You know, we miss out on how magical just the seemingly mundane and ordinary is.
This is Way of the Artist with Brandon Colby Cook and Evan Schulte.
Identifying your blocks and demystifying your struggles
so that you can claim your own path
and make your life a work of art.
This is it. It's that time. It's podcast time with Brandon and Evan. So today we're talking about an honest pursuit of something. We wanted to give you a fun little title, and this is it. The podcast that we're doing is about being an artist, being creative, but not just about being an artist. It's living that creative, artistic life and finding your flow in everything you do, finding your sense of purpose and passion and all of that. You know, we don't really reiterate a lot what this podcast is about, but it's not just for artists, it's for everybody. I mean, this is your life, and your life is a blank canvas, so to speak. You know, it's you standing in front or sitting in front of your piano or holding your guitar. It's you standing on stage with the light on you. Everybody is in it, you know? And when you go after something in your life, whatever that might be, you know, I think we want to encourage the idea that you just go with it wholeheartedly, honestly, fully. And what that is, what that something is for you, I mean, it could be anything, and it doesn't even have to be in the arts. So we had a big talk, which was a very, I don't know, how we got here was interesting because it started in a different way. Yeah, but I'm glad we got here.
Yeah, it was a bit of a journey to get there, and then it was just, you said it, just like an honest pursuit of something, and I was like, that sounds like the perfect title, and that's really just where we're our starting point.
Yeah.
We didn't really have much of a, like, we had a big discussion, but not necessarily about that specifically, but just being like, that's something to talk about. Let's do it.
Yeah, and you're right. We didn't come up with like some big conclusion on what this is going to be. We literally took that as, let's make that our starting point and let's see where this takes us, so to speak. But to give some context to the audience members, I mean, where this came from was, and I've talked about this a bit before on podcasts, but you had referred a video game development like YouTube channel for me to look at. Yeah. And I talked about previously how video game development's been something that I've been really interested in. So I've been going down that road. I feel like, you know, kind of the new kid at school that's like in kindergarten, like just looking ahead at all the learning that I have about to do. So it's somewhat overwhelming at times, but I don't have any real like ambitions about where this needs to go, who I need to become, what it needs to do for me. I just really love video games, like, and I want to create them, or at least learn how to create them, and I want to go down that road a little ways. And it's really an honest pursuit for me. It's just this real honest kind of like, I don't know, it's exciting. It seems like it would be fun. It seems like it would be cool. Let's see what would happen. And then I was talking about, you know, when I started filmmaking, that was the same way it started for me. I didn't have any ambitions or any like big idea about being some big director or something like that. Like that came a little later. I started to go like, oh, maybe I could make something out of this. But when it started, it was really just, hey, wouldn't it be awesome if we made a film? Like, wouldn't that be so much fun? And that's really what happened. And, you know, it was an honest pursuit, and it actually started my film career. I think that there's a lot of things we don't start because we get too far ahead of ourselves, and we start to think, well, will this lead me anywhere? Will this make me money? You know, will I ever succeed at it? Do I have a chance? Yeah. And it's like, None of that matters. Right now, what matters is that you have an interest in it and you want to go down this road a little ways.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go down it forever. You could change your mind. I mean, I might go down video game developing, and then next month I might be like, fuck it. I'm not interested anymore. It was interesting for a moment, and then I found out what it was more about, and now I'm not interested anymore. You can change your mind. But I think an honest pursuit of something is you taking those initial steps to go down that road and venture down that and start to see if there's something there that has traction for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when you said it, it was in my mind, there's a tremendous power in an honest pursuit of something, because the opposite side of that is, I think, something that we fall trapped to a lot in our lives. It's easy to, which is, I guess, a dishonest pursuit of something, which is, I guess, could come up in many different ways. We can be lying to ourselves about something. We can be bowing into pressure from other people around us to go in this direction, make this step in this direction. And it's not really anything that we want to do. Mm-hmm. It's things we're doing because we are afraid of the consequences if we did otherwise.
Right.
Very often, just like, oh, well, what might happen if I don't do this, or if I actually pursue this thing that I'm interested, because the thing is, with the life of an artist, to go specifically into like the of an artistic career lifestyle, is that it comes with such uncertainty. I mean, every human life, it's riddled with uncertainty.
It's not just the arts.
Yeah, it's not just the arts, but the
bring
arts
it out a little more.
It just kind of like embellishes, puts a little highlighter on it, on some of these things to really stand out. Because in the arts, they're really like there's a lot of securities that are not necessarily there.
Yeah,
and it presents a real challenge. Mostly a mental challenge with things, because you don't know how things are going to work out. And I lost my train of thought, but regardless, there's the artistic life just brings these things out. Everyone deals with uncertainty, but for the artist, it's like the thing is, you have to express this thing, and it's like, what is the consequence of not expressing this thing? What is the consequence of not doing this thing? And, the word might be like sort of soul, is that like for the artist, it's like, it's a compromising of your soul. It's a compromising of your being to not say these things. And there is a payment that is due at the end of that as well.
Yeah. Well, there's a saying, actually, the price for living is death. Like it's something like that, right? Like the price to live a life is to die. Mm-hmm. That's the cost. So you're going to die, and I think that when you look at your life, I mean, one thing is that certainty is mostly an illusion. It's not as real as we think. And
agreed.
There was a TED Talk I was listening to, actually, and because this talk actually came from the concepts, or like the birth of like, well, what is regret and how does regret play in? And I had some epiphanies about how it worked in my life, or how it works in my life, and how I'm kind of transcending it and transforming my take on what regret is and how I experience it and how I work with it. But something I've been learning since my recognitions is that everybody has some form of regret. Otherwise, they have serious problems, or they're like seriously not good people, because regret is a very, very necessary part of the human experience. It's unavoidable. You're going to experience it, and if you don't, you're either going to get yourself in like great danger, or you're going to get yourself killed early or something, because regret, actually what it does is it makes us better. It makes us form better decisions in the future. They've done many scientific experiments about this, about how actually considering regret preemptively is what helps you to save. It's what helps you to practice, have discipline, and
Yeah.
do all sorts of things, or to take risks that you wouldn't normally take.
Yeah.
So regret is kind of this double-edged sword. When we think of regret, though, we think of the sword cutting us. We don't so much think of how the sword cuts through things for us. Like
Yeah.
when you think of regret, for example, I think about like UFC fighters, for example, or mixed martial arts fighters, and I think about them like, in a way, you don't want to skip practice because you know that you could get knocked out. You know that you could just go in and just get destroyed in front of everybody.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of like, I'm going to give it all I got up until the match to some degree, I would imagine. I mean, there would be for me, because it would be like the consequence is high, and I could perceive in the future the possible regret of going like, man, I didn't practice hard enough. I didn't get myself trained enough.
Yeah.
But anything could be like that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I don't want to steal the floor here. I'm just saying that an honest pursuit of something comes from some foresight of regret, and also some recognition of how you have regret already. Because, here's the last thing I'd say. If your greatest fear is getting old and retiring and becoming like, a nuisance to everybody and have really nothing to share of your life, and just kind of like if that scares you, don't plan on doing it.
Yeah.
Don't but we will. And that's a dishonest pursuit. It's like, I'm going to save, I'm going to be responsible, I'm going to do this job I fucking hate, I'm going to show up and, I'm just going to drink and smoke and do all the shit I need to do just to get through it because it's so unbearable. And you're doing that. I mean, that's not really an honest pursuit, because you're not acknowledging the fact that that's not okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's you're using Band-Aid solutions, It's like we've got an emergency and
But sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, the thing, this is actually really interesting. I'm glad that this circled back to where our early conversation did, because there's, like most things, there is somehow these things too. There's a relation. It's like wherever we started a conversation and wherever sometimes it ends up, it's like, well, there's a thread that led to all of these things.
Yeah.
But there is this incredible link with regret and an honest pursuit, because I think that, like you said, regret is an incredible teaching tool, because I think regret shows us where we have been dishonest with ourselves, especially if we're really hanging on to it, because it's pointing to, it's like, hey, you're not doing or being the person that you are, or doing the thing that you want to actually be doing, right? Because I think regret is not something that we're supposed to hang on to. As useful as it can be, it's not something that you're supposed to sit in over and over and over again. It's there to just be like, hey, you messed up here.
Yeah.
Right? And you have this feeling. Don't like this feeling, right? Like, let's look at what that is. And it's because it's like, well, yeah, that wasn't who you are. What you did, that isn't who you are. Or how you're being, this isn't who you are. And this isn't what you want to be doing. So do you want to continue to live with this feeling? And until you take action, until you can recognize that, until you can actually feel that feeling, then that regret's not going to go anywhere, right?
Hold on. What do you mean? Until you feel the feeling, the regret's not going anywhere. Let's stop there for a sec. What do you mean?
So, because regret is it's not just an intellectual thing of we say regret is like, oh, it's because, yes, there's that whole equation of it. It's like you did something or something happened, you wish you'd done a different action, right? But it's not just that thing. There's an emotion that comes with it. Regret is a feeling that we have. It's a very specific feeling that we have. And it's a really uncomfortable, awful feeling.
Yeah.
And pain is a teacher, because I would say regret is a pain type feeling.
Totally.
As a category.
Yes.
Right? So until and this was something that you had said in our preliminary conversation about regret, is that it's like, we're always trying to get over regret. but getting over it isn't addressing it. What you were saying was like you have to go through it.
Yeah.
Right.
That wasn't mine. That was from, I think his name's Jay Shetty. I'm pretty sure that's his name.
Yeah.
Something Shetty. Pretty sure it's Jay.
Shout out everything, just passing it
I
on,
want to make
paying
sure
it
I
forward.
give tribute, because that's where I got it from. But I think he had a really good point, is that we do treat regret like in our culture, and he was pointing out that we treat it like something we got to get over. And that's why we carry it with us for far too long. But regret is actually something you get through, and once you're through it, you leave it. So, like, part of the challenge I was experiencing, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just want to say this because I think it'll hammer the point home, is that I was looking at my regrets as this kind of thing I needed to heal, and I needed to get over it. And so that's why I kept carrying it with me and kept reminding myself of this thing I fucked up on, or I did this wrong, or I made a mistake. And so the thing that was happening for me is that it would just kind of keep coming with me. And the thing is what I learned is that you don't, like, the regrets you have, you don't forget them. They never go away. It's not like they're done. And to try to do that is no good for you. When you get through the regret that you made, like you go, okay, I fucked up. These are the mistakes I made. I'm going to do it differently next time. And you process that feeling, which I believe is to fully feel it, work through the feeling, for a short period of time, not like for the rest of your life. And then you're done. Then you've been through it. And now you can go, okay, great. I'm a new person. I'm better off. I won't do that again. Boom. You can leave it.
Yeah.
Right. But you don't need to keep trying to heal it after that. The wound that left the scar is not going away. Yeah. That regret you have is going to leave a scar for you forever. Yeah. And that's okay. You want that because that's what made you better.
But yeah, it's like, don't keep opening up the wound. You just you've got to let.
That's a great way to put it. Don't keep opening up the wound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would argue it's like if you keep opening the wound, it means you're not really healed. Exactly. The whole thing, right?
That's the ironic thing. And in a way, that's what I was doing. I kept opening up the wound, thinking that opening it up was somehow going to help me heal it. Yeah. It's silly, but like when you see yourself doing it, you go, that's dumb. I'm not going to do that anymore. But until you see yourself doing it, you don't know you're doing it. Yeah. Like I didn't know I was opening up the wound over and over again. I didn't recognize that. I just knew I was in pain. This
conversation, like I know I already said this, but is really pointing out to me, at least at this point in time, is that, like this relationship between, regret and honesty is a very close one because the regret is such a personal thing. With regret there comes shame. There's guilt and there's shame that comes with regret. And just in the way that regret functions, how that whole thing operates, it really is a feeling that comes out of an action or non-action that is dishonest to who you are, which is it's something was a betrayal of your integrity in some way. And and that happens. I think that this is one of the incredible things. Like, so when we look at something like regret, I love that this conversation's taken this turn.
It's interesting, right? It's like, it's kind of fun going and navigating this conversation we're having. It's funny how we keep commenting on it too, but it's funny how this conversation goes because that is the interesting thing, right? Like someone could listen to this episode going, okay, well, I'm going to get into this. And all of a sudden it's like, what? We're talking about regret? But you actually end up finding out that there's a relationship to things that you didn't see before that help you unlock something. Because I think what we're realizing as we've had the preliminary discussion and even entering this one is like, there's kind of a way to get into your honest pursuit and look at it. But like this little monster of regret is this thing that we don't always talk about, but it's like very closely related. And something about regret, you said it was very personal. I just want to mention, it is very personal because regret actually all comes down to your own standards, your own values. Yeah. Someone could do something, not regret it. Another person can do it and totally regret it. Totally different response to the same thing. And that's very much largely based on their internal decisions of what they value, what matters to them.
Who you are.
Even more does that point to why it's an honest pursuit, because the pursuit for you is not the pursuit for them. So if you try and model what they did, you might actually regret it. Like you might say, I want to be a millionaire. Well, did you know that millionaire stepped on old ladies to get to where they were? Do you know that they fucking destroyed families' lives to like get there? Do you know that they stole and cheated and that they betrayed friends to get there? Do you still want that $1 million knowing you have that on your hands? Like, but imagine that you did that to all those people, right? And that you had to carry that with you. Now that person might not care. Mm-hmm. And you could go, well, that person's bad. But like, aside from all that, whatever your judgments of that person are, and we could get into that later, but like your honest pursuit of something might not align with that. And if you try to do what they do, you could end yourself up in some very hot water and some very like turmoil place that you don't want to be in. And you have your $1 million, but then you're like, yeah, but like, who am I? You know?
Yeah.
Whatever the prize is that you're trying to go for.
Yeah. Like there's this correlation of like, there's the price that comes with a dishonest pursuit. And very often that's loaded with regret. You know, it's like people who give up on their dreams, you know, like with artistry, you hear this story a lot, you know, like people who reach a certain point in their life, like they wanted to go and pursue this. They wanted to go to art school. They wanted to do these things. And instead they decided to compromise in a big way. You know, sometimes compromise, I don't think compromise is an ugly word, but when you compromise in a big way, it can be really harmful. Mm-hmm. And especially when it goes on giving up on a dream, giving up on a passion and pursuing something because it was safer. And sure, that leads to its own life, and it's not like that life is absent of incredible joys and beautiful things. But so often you hear these stories of these people who get to a certain point, you know, maybe they're at the end of their life, or maybe they're just they're in their retirement, and they said, you know what, I always wanted to do this, and now I'm finally just doing it. Yeah. I'm finally just acting on it, you know, and I think that's incredible. I love to see that when people make that jump, when they make that realization, right? Because it's regret. Or it's like, you know what, I didn't do this, and I really wanted to do it, and I've only got so much life to live, and so now I'm going to do it, right? And they're going to take action. They're going to take that acting class. They're going to step into that pottery workshop. They're going to do that thing, right? Because they don't want to live with regret. You know, that's the healing. It's like, this was authentically something that was me that I've neglected. Mm-hmm. And now you can't neglect it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the thing because I think we have to talk about this, is that how do we move through regret? How do we begin to look at it in a way that is healing? And for me, it comes down to accepting that we're human. You know,
I think that's the cornerstone. I honestly do. Something that, so if I can for a second, I want to share that
you can for a second, Brandon.
For a second, just for a moment.
Just for a second.
Yeah, all right.
You can.
Thanks, Evan. I appreciate that. So I was being very dishonest about my regret with myself, because ever since I've been, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 years old, right around there, I just started like, and even before that really, but I just like said, I'm going to go for this thing. I'm going to try. I'm going to like throw it all and like do it. And I'm like, I don't regret anything. I mean, I gave everything I had, you know, and life worked out the way it did at this point. And, you know, I'll be honest, I had these ambitions and perceptions and ideas that I would be like this big deal at this point in my life. And it turned out that at least on a materialistic scale, you know, I'm comparatively like to what I imagined my life would look like, not. Doesn't mean I'm not a big deal. Doesn't mean I'm an influencer or making a big impact now, maybe more than I even realized. Who knows? But it didn't necessarily align. And so I was thinking, well, I don't regret. I love what I did. I fucking went for it. I had a blast. My life has been super fulfilling. And if I died today, I would not die going, fuck, I wish I did this. I wouldn't. Like, you could have me on my deathbed. The only thing I could say is, like, I could go to Europe already. That's the only one. Yeah. And it's like, I haven't yet. That's the one thing on my, like, bucket list that I just haven't done yet. And I'm like, fuck, you got to get on that one. Like, that's the one thing that if I was dying, I'd be like, fuck, I didn't make it to Europe. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, well, I did, but I didn't make it to all the parts that I wanted to make it to, whatever that means. But anyway, regardless, okay, so I'm like, well, I don't regret, because I went for it. I did it. I did my dream. I fucking went full out into a filmmaker. I tried the acting. I did it all that I wanted. But I realized that my regret doesn't work that way. Not for me. My regret works in that I believe I made errors and bad choices, and I regret certain choices in the sense that I was loyal to friends who were not really my friends. I stuck with a toxic relationship longer than I should have. I joined a toxic group that I shouldn't have, and these things affected my life and my future and my current happiness, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I realized that I need to be honest about that. I need to be honest that I beat the shit out of myself for making these mistakes. Mm-hmm. It's not that I didn't go for it, and in some ways I'm not going for it as much right now as I used to, because I'm beating myself up for making mistakes, because what I did was I paired going for it with being careless. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. I'm better than I ever was. I know more than I ever did. I have cleared so many blind spots that I used to have. If I went for it all out again, I would be so much more prepared for those types of things to occur. Now, it's not to say that other things wouldn't occur, mm-hmm. but regret is kind of one of those things, whereas like when you're not honest about your regret, it becomes, and I described it in my journal like this, the sword that holds you down by the throat. Because it literally stops you from moving. Yeah. And it can, when it's used against you, like it's a sword. I really believe it's a sword. You can use it to literally cut through things and be like, fuck it, I'm going to work out today. I'm going to acting class. I don't care if I'm tired. I'm going to do the fucking thing, mm-hmm. right? And it can cut through the world for you. But it can also cut you. And I was turning the sword literally on myself, holding it to my own throat, going like, don't risk and make mistakes. You're going to fuck up again, or you haven't healed what you already fucked up, or blah, blah, blah. And I really I put myself in kind of a paralyzed state around certain things. And so this recent awareness, in a sense it's been somewhat recent, has allowed me to just take that knife away from my throat and be like, okay, like you don't have a knife to your throat. Now what do you want to do? And that's basically the experience I'm having, because it's like, but I just wasn't being honest that I was having regrets and using them against myself. Yeah. I hope someone out there on the call, like on this like talk, can relate to that. Mm-hmm. Someone who really sure. like has gone for it, or you feel like you're going for it and you just feel like you can't anymore. Like, I'm telling you, just try to look at that. Try to see how much you're beating yourself up for your mistakes, and be kind to yourself and forgive yourself. You're going to give yourself a whole new world of freedom.
Yeah. I mean, I think you said the word there, like forgiveness is such an incredible word when it comes to this. Being able to
Another
forgive
huge
yourself.
Relationship to this whole honest pursuit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because like when it comes to, like healing regret, like I said, it's like you're human. You make mistakes. Guess what? So has everybody else. You know, it comes with it. This is what comes with living. You're going to make mistakes, and you don't need to regret making mistakes. You know, there's no need to regret that. And as you were talking, I just realized, like, you know what? Like, I think that when we feel regret, what it is actually really trying to tell us, right? Because what we're doing is we're caught up in a mind game of just like, I should have done this, I should have done that. We get caught up in that should game. And regret is actually this thing that's trying to slap us awake. It's trying to say, wake up and live your life. Regret is saying, live your life.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again until you wake up and say, oh shit, I do have to live my life.
Yeah.
I have to live my life. No one else can live this for me. No one else can make the right decisions for me. Only I can do that.
Yeah.
And
Whatever
I have to
that is.
whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It's what is right for you.
That's such a like big point, is like, that's what an honest pursuit is. What is right for you? You know, and you might have a whole world around you. We talked about this on the podcast, I don't know, a couple ago. I'm not sure, but I was talking about my story with my dad and how my dad was like kind of fucking betrayed me. And I just said, fuck you. And I went and I did it. And it was like this, that's the thing, man. I don't fucking regret that.
Yeah.
And it's like, there was a moment.
It's not like it's without its consequences.
No, it has consequences.
But there's no regret.
There's no regret, because when you are being honest about what really matters to you, you don't let shit get in your way, and you don't care what other people think of you, and you don't even care about what they use against you to control you. Like, it is power and freedom, but you know, I think we like to think of power and freedom as this kind of like grace of like, I'm flowing and everything's wonderful. But power and freedom can be fucking gritty, man. Yeah. Power and freedom can be like, you know what? Like, you got me in the fucking prison cell right now, but I'm still a free man. I'm still free. It doesn't matter. You can chain me up, you can do whatever, but you can't take what is inside of me, and you cannot own that or control that. And that is the one power that we have. And like, when you're in an honest pursuit, you have this thing inside of you that is unfucking touchable. And I can speak to that as the truth, man, because fuck, man, I remember coming back or just going down there and being like, I have no fucking money. And I just like, and I fucking figured it out, man. I figured the shit out, because when that fucking fire inside of you is burning, the whole world sees it. And you know what? You burn through shit. Like, you open up doors, because there's these moments in your life, and I'm just reminding myself of this. It's so good for me to actually say this out loud just for me, is those were the moments where I was truly invincible. And they were not easy, and they were not always lovely, but there was a purity to it. There was a clarity to it. And there were, you know, I think sometimes, because sometimes I beat myself up in my life right now, but I think like, oh, it was so good in my 20s. But it's like, no, it wasn't always so good. There was fucking 5 or whatever years, 3, 4, 5 years where I didn't even talk to my dad, you know, where we didn't even have a relationship. There was periods where I didn't have any money, and I was off on my own with my dream, doing my own thing, you know, just trying to struggle to like get by and keep it going. Those were not fucking lovely and perfect. But when I think back about them, they do seem like these glorious days, but I think it's because they were so honest of a pursuit. It wasn't because they looked pretty on the external world always, or that everything was working out wonderful, but that's the internal clarity you get. You get this kind of centeredness, you know? And I think that, you know, we fall off of that. I've fallen off of that at times, you know, maybe even now a little bit. But I keep trying to like, go, okay, well, let's reignite that. What was that thing that gave me that experience of my life that was so rich, you know? And I think when you're in your truth, you know, whatever that is for you, you know, it could be anything, but whatever that is, you just know. You know, you have this knowing inside of you. Yeah. And if you're not trying to do what everyone tells you to do, or trying to model or copy or fit in or be liked or be accepted, and you're just doing your fucking thing, it's going to change your world. But like, there's no regret in that. There can't be. It doesn't exist in that realm. That's my point. You know, regret. The only regret to really have, I don't know, man, I'm having an awareness here. The only regret to have is to not be in that truth. Yeah. That is really it. Like, and I think that regrets continue, like you said, it's just continually trying to tell us to go back to that.
Yeah. it makes me, I don't remember who said it, but it was, it's never too late to be what you might have been.
Yes.
You know, and that's an incredible quote that speaks directly to regret.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's never too late. Like you can make a choice to do something different and to start living more in the way that you want to be living.
Yeah.
And begin your honest pursuit of something. You know, it's one of our favorites that we like to bring up often, Alan Watts. You know, like I remember hearing him, I'll paraphrase this, but basically saying, he's like, well, just as a thought experiment, he's like, well, would you rather live 100 years, you know, doing things that you hate doing, just grinding it out, just making it, you know, day to day? It's like, or would 50 years spent doing things you love, pursuing things you love? You know, it's like, which is the better life to have lived? One's twice as long.
Yeah.
Right? But is it really worth it? And I think that I think that you'd be crazy to say that you would take the one that's 100 years long. Why would you want to spend 100 years just in misery?
Right.
Take the 50 years of just like of an incredible, honest pursuit of just, you know, not, again, it doesn't mean that it's not without its hardships and its heartaches and its challenges, but, you know, regret can be one of the deepest pains that you have, you know, at the end of the day. You don't want to have that at the end of your life, to regret how you spent it.
No, and you don't know when the end of your life is coming. And my personal belief is that you should never be at a moment where you would die with regret. You should always be in a moment of saying, I'm living my life as full out as I possibly can right now, and if I were to die right now, it would be fine because I'm giving it everything I can up until this point right now.
Yeah.
You know, like when I was younger, like after my friend George got killed in a car accident, that changed my life. And I realized that you can all just be taken away at any moment. It really hit me hard. And I decided that, like, look, I may not have accomplished everything that I want to accomplish in my life, but up until today, this moment, I'm giving everything that I can. And that doesn't mean that I spent every single day practicing and being disciplined. Some days I was having as much fun as I possibly could, playing some video games or doing something I wanted to do or hanging out with some friends or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like, I decided that every moment, like if you were to take my moment and then next, if you were to take my life, I would go out, if I even had a glimmer to think about it, and I would be like, well, this is it, but this was all of it up until now. Yeah. And I think that if we all lived our life that way, you would never really fear death, because that's basically what happened, man. I became fearless of death. I became so fucking free. Like, and I think about that and I go, man, like, that brought out the best of me, the best I've ever been. And not because I was better, not because I had some shit together. It was because that literally was my spirit at its highest form, going, we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it. And I don't think my life's going to be taken in the next, but if it is, we're fucking doing it. And it was like, you know, like, this is a weird little thought, and you don't have to join me on it. I'm speaking to the audience, but like, if you had like yourself living your life, and then imagine you had like almost like a spirit or like a higher self, like watching you go through your life, and you and that higher spirit were always in conversation, and you could look up to the higher self and just be like, we're fucking doing it, hey? You know, and that higher self could be like, yeah, we're fucking doing it. And like, you just kind of like could almost laugh at like every moment, just being like, we're giving it all we got right now. And like, you can't ask for anything more from anybody. That's it. If you're giving it all you got, if you're being true, if you're being honest in that moment, it's all you got. And it might not be perfect, and it might not be right, and you might be making a mistake, and you might not know, but you're doing it. And that, I just really feel like that is the experience of an honest pursuit.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, is like the mistakes you make on an honest pursuit are not ones you regret.
No, because you're always learning
like,
something good.
It's just a learning thing. It's like, okay, shit, that was a mistake. Mm-hmm. Right? But it was in the pursuit of the right thing.
Yes.
So it's like, so there's no real regret there. It's just a lesson at that point.
Yeah. It almost doesn't factor in that it's a regret because it is just a lesson.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't factor in.
Yeah.
That's the point. It's just a mistake.
Yeah.
Right? That you can learn from and move through.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to just quickly touch on because I love that impassioned speech that you made.
One per talk.
Yeah. I feel like you've had a couple already today.
Yeah, maybe.
But I mean, it's like when we talk about this thing of, it's like when you're out there doing your thing, going for it, and this and that, like at one point in my life, I would hear something like that, and I would go, it's like, oh shit, I have to go and do something big. I have to go and do something, and whatever your idea of that big is, and I just want to address that for a second here. For some people, their honest pursuit is something that we would call big, like you're an Elon Musk of the world, and your honest pursuit is to do something like that. That's terrific. But for most of us, like not everyone's Elon Musk, not everyone needs to be, and it's not the way that the world would function well. The world will not function well with a billion Elon Musks out there, because actually probably nothing would get done. You'd have too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But I mean, for some people, it's like going for it, making the most of it, like of your life. That can be sitting down and fucking helping your kid with their math homework.
Yes.
Being there for your kids. That's making the most of it. Like there's it can be pursuing that artistic thing that you never went through with, or maybe you did for a while and you gave up on, but now you're like, that's making the most of it. It doesn't need to be an earth-shattering thing. It just needs to be true to who you are.
Yes.
And that's a big thing. And I'm sure no one can even quantify how big that is. In our preliminary discussion, we were talking about the butterfly effect.
Yes, the movie, right?
There's the movie, but like there's the idea of it.
Yeah.
It's like the butterfly flaps its wings in Japan or something like that, and it creates a hurricane on the other side of the world, or however that goes. But in essence, like what it's really speaking to is that just the smallest action, the smallest thing that occurs can have repercussions that we have absolutely no idea. We have no idea how our presence, how the kind of person that we are and what we do in the world, how that impacts the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Like when we're really being true and honest people just in our own circles. And in many ways, that was something that I realized a few years ago, and I have to remind myself of it from time to time. But I just had this realization of just like, do your part in your part.
Do your part in
your part. Like wherever in your community, in your circle, just do your part in that. Mm-hmm. And if it expands from beyond that, then it expands. And if it expands beyond from what that circle is, then it does. But just do your part in your part. Mm. Don't worry about being a big thing, because if you are doing your part, that's going to take care of itself. Mm-hmm. Like what you're doing has impacts that you can't even fully understand and comprehend. And in many ways, no one else can either.
Yeah.
But it matters. Mm-hmm. It matters what you do, even if it's just, within your small circle. It matters.
Yeah.
It matters in a big way.
It matters in ways that you'll never really know. So trying to measure how much impact you make is pointless. I mean, you don't know. Like, you don't know the impact you're making on people's lives doing what you're doing. I had, a filmmaker, she's kind of a friend, acquaintance of mine, right? Like, she's winning all these awards as a filmmaker right now, and I'm so happy for her. She came up to me like several years ago while I was working at the gym, and she was just like, hey, she's like, when you were doing that show, it inspired me to go and make a movie. And so she's just like, I just wanted to tell you. And now she's off winning awards. And like, I didn't know. Like, I was just making some shit with my friends and going like, this would be really fun, you know? And meanwhile, you know, someone who actually told me, and I don't know how many other people might be out there who are having a similar experience as her, but someone actually came up to me and said, like, you were doing it, and I thought, you know, I'd like to do it too. And so now she's off doing it and like walking the red carpet and winning awards and shit. And it's like, well, you know, you don't know. You don't like, so in some ways, like maybe part of my journey was that part of my journey. Maybe that part of my journey was simply to inspire some other people for a greater reason or greater purpose than I even realized. And then who knows?
And then who knows who that person inspired because of it. Like, it's just
the ripple effect.
Next thing you know, it's you got an avalanche of like inspiration that's going all around.
And you don't know. I mean, there's no way to measure it or keep track of it. It just reverberates out into the world, and like there are these impacts. You know, that movie we were talking about, The Butterfly Effect, with Ashton Kutcher, right? Is that how you say his name?
Ashton
Kutcher.
Ashton Kutcher.
It's a fun commercial break of humor. So anyway, that movie, right? He keeps trying to go back and fix things that happen to like make things better, but he doesn't realize that when he does this thing, it has another dramatic effect, and it keeps making things worse and worse and worse. And the thing is that you don't know, and this is something I try to remind myself of, it's part of the work I've been doing, but it's like, I don't know if what happened was actually the best scenario or the worst scenario. I don't know. Because like in my mind, I'm like, oh, it could have been better. It could have been better. I could have not made this mistake. I could have done this. You know, and I keep seeing my own life improve. But let's just say that I didn't make that mistake and I didn't make that error of judgment that I beat myself up for. Well, like, what if because I did that, like, all of a sudden I found out it created some reverberation, and then one of my parents died, or one of my brothers died, or one of my best friends died because I wasn't there when I otherwise would have been, and then that created an event where they were, you know, and all of a sudden, like, that person's dead, or they're paraplegic, or something happened to them that was really bad because, you know, and so who knows? And so you start to think, well, like, your mistakes might have saved someone else's life. Now, if you knew that, you might go, I'd gladly take that mistake because it would mean the price of this.
Yeah.
But because we're so self-centered, because we're so self-involved, we often, when we're in regret, forget that there's a whole other world around us that greatly impacts us. Mm-hmm. So even if you're just doing it selfishly, you might end up in a worse scenario regardless. So this could very well be the best reality you could have been in. And you might have made all the perfect choices and you just don't realize it because your perception of what your life's supposed to look like, or what you think it needs to look like, is askew, and it's off, and it's incomplete. So, you know, an honest pursuit, I think what's really important about it is that you don't get attached to results. What you focus on is the moment you're in, and being honest in that moment and doing what's true for you in that moment. And, you know, you can look to the future and think about what you want to try and attempt to build, but recognize that you're not in control of that. So since you're not in control of that, you can do your best to try to, like, you know, inform it, but right now is really all you have. Mm-hmm. And I think you know, another thing that we never really talked about was, I'll just bring this in, is like this concept of sacrifice. You know, if you keep feeling like you have to sacrifice your dreams, sacrifice what you care about, sacrifice all of this stuff all the time, that becomes your experience of your life.
Yeah.
But if when you're doing something, someone might look at it and go, well, you're sacrificing, but you don't experience it like sacrificing it. You experience like, no, this is what I want to do. I want to practice. I want to train. I want to do this. Then it doesn't become your whole life gets sacrificed. It becomes you doing what you want to do, you know, like if you were to, so to say, like die in training before you got to the big day, at least you were training. At least you were doing the thing or working towards the thing that you wanted, which is so much more meaningful and important than doing something that you don't really want to do anyway. You know? Mm-hmm. Like, sacrifice is an illusion. It's a disconnect from our own values. It's because, when you're making time for somebody you love, if that's a sacrifice for you, if you feel like you're giving up something you love, then you don't really do what you love. Fuck off with that. Go do what you love. Stop obligating yourself into taking care of something that you don't want to take care of. And if that means that you're a shitty parent, then you're going to have to be a shitty parent. But I say that making you full aware that you will pay the consequence of being a shitty parent, and you will pay for the consequences of your shitty parenting. So, you might go, well, I don't really want to be a shitty parent. And then you take care of your kid, and you take care of your kid gladly because you recognize that sometimes you don't get to do what you want because you have other responsibilities that matter more. And so you do them, and you do them
Which means that you are actually doing what you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is my point. So, but we need to get our fucking values straight. Because otherwise, if you don't even know what you really care about, if you don't know what really matters to you, it's pretty difficult to have an honest pursuit.
Yeah, because you can't even be honest with yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is some
man.
stuff. Let's talk about beer.
Yeah, let's talk about beer. With all of that said, let's talk about beer.
Oh man, I love it.
It's gonna give
Top that baby up.
Top up.
So this is a real dark one.
Oh yeah, it's rich.
Very rich, and by the title you will know what we are talking about. It's called a Himalayan salted caramel porter, and this is from the Trailblazer series from Old Yale Brewing Co. By the way, Evan and I just have a beer. This isn't an ad. We just have a beer every podcast because it spurs on the conversation. It's part of the tradition, and we love craft beer, and we like to talk about it and give some props to having a good beer. So that's what this is. You know what? I like it. I mean, I don't always drink porters, but it's a very full and tasty beer. I mean, I wouldn't sit here and drink this beer all night back to back to back, but it's one of those beers, and I think by the title itself, it's you're going to have one, and it's almost a dessert in and of itself.
It is, especially this one, salted caramel. Yeah. It's because it does have quite a sweetness to it, and I always forget how much I actually enjoy porters and stouts. It's I almost never buy them for myself, but I'm a person who I kind of just like to drink a beer. Yeah. I like to have one drink and then I'm good.
Yeah.
And a porter is something like this is perfect for that because you just kind of want to sip it. You don't want to just pound it down. You just want to enjoy it and savor it, and it's quite tasty.
Well, one reason why I got this was because it's a limited series. It's seasonal. And also, it's something we hadn't had before. But I really like salted caramel, and I thought, why not? Let's try it out. But this is one of those beers where it's you're having a beer like this, and you're just kind of if you like it, obviously, but it's you're just kind of in a state of I'm just really enjoying this thing. It's like having a nice meal. It's just, and I think that when you're in an honest pursuit, and I want to pair this back. An honest pursuit, in my opinion, is so much about just doing things fully, just doing them wholeheartedly. If you're gonna watch TV, watch it. Love it, own it, do it. Yeah. You're gonna play video games. If you're gonna have a beer, if you're gonna have a smoke, whatever you're doing, just do it. This is it. Have that kind of lust for life, as though this is your moment. You remember that day where I was this is my moment. I mean, I was in such pain and turmoil, kind of leading up to that. I had done a lot of work to get through that. But that was one of those moments where I was just this right now is my moment. And it was every moment from then has always been my moment. Mm-hmm. This is my moment because there is nothing else but right now. And if you are doing this fully, you get so much out of it. Yeah.
Really what is, and we've been talking about this a lot, but I mean, recently, it's been like I've been getting beaten over the head with this, but it's like attention is everything. Our attention is absolutely fucking everything. Like our attention creates our worlds, and it's like, and we're so often caught up in the judgments of what's going on that we miss out on our lives that are happening right in front of us. We miss out on how magical just the seemingly mundane and ordinary is. I think the Buddha said, it's like if we could see the miracle of a single flower clearly, our entire lives would change. And it's about attention. It's about really seeing something for what it is, and how extraordinary it is. Because, I mean, for me, the fact that anything is extraordinary.
Yeah.
When I really think about it, when I have the mindfulness to stop and think about it, it's like, this is extraordinary. This is extraordinary that you and I are here having this conversation. This is extraordinary that there are people at the other end of this listening to this conversation. How the hell does that even happen?
Yeah.
It's like it boggles the mind. It baffles me at times. Well, sometimes it's overwhelming to think about.
We take so much for granted, we don't really think about how all these things came together to make the thing what it is, and this moment is so rich. I mean, there were so many things that had to occur for us to get to this moment right now and be here and be able to enjoy it and just like live it. And sometimes, I think you can be in a moment of fucking rage or just like sadness. But like my suggestion is the more you let yourself like just really be in it, not only are the more you're going to get out of it, the more whole you're going to feel in your life, but the faster you will find that it's going to go. Like, and that's like the thing that people don't realize. Like when we love a moment, when we're so happy, we're like, I just want to be here forever. And then it's gone. Right. But when you hate a moment, it seems to like last forever and never change. Because if you just like fully were in like, fuck, I'm so fucking sad. Like my fucking heart is breaking right now. It would pass, because the more fully you experience it, like the quicker time just kind of takes it away from you. And not that you should be, that's another thing. Don't be worried about trying to keep each moment forever. Move on to the next and let the next moment be the next moment. Like that's, I think, a thing when you're in an honest pursuit, you're willing to go from moment to moment to moment and let every moment be its moment. Not try to like, oh, I like this moment, let's keep this one here forever. Yeah. Like that is always going to lead to trouble. And I mean, if anybody is conscious being, they know that's fucking true. That when you try to hang on to something, it will elude you forever. Like it's the whole butterfly thing. You just got to let it go and let it come back. And if you had a moment in your life that was like just pristine and perfect, even if it doesn't come back that way, let that be that moment that you had. And don't try and compare that moment to other moments. Let that be that moment, and then let your next moments be their moments. Because it's this comparison of moments that makes that sabotages and pollutes the whole experience.
I would say it's like, if for all our listeners out there, think about like, a day that you had that was just perfect, or like some moment in your life that was just, it was perfect. And think about how that all happened, how that moment of perfection. Because like, I hope everyone's had this experience, because I know I've had a few experiences in my life of just being like, this was like a perfect day. And I'll just get specific. Think of a perfect day that you spent, that you had. Because I'm sure you will find that there was a certain level to which you had planned it. This is going back to one of our past conversations about planning, but like there was a certain element to which, you had organized it to some extent, but I promise you there was probably some unexpected things that happened along the way. things that took you by surprise, maybe many things that took you by surprise in this day, but you were there and you really took them in. Like I think about a day I spent with my now wife. We were in Paris, and like we'd sort of planned. I was like, yeah, all right, let's head to this area of the city and we'll explore whatever. We had sort of like a general plan just to get us over there, and plus there was the whole plan just getting over to Paris as it was. But regardless, we're here and like we're just spending this day wandering around, doing this and that. We didn't know where we were going to go and stop to eat or grab coffee or specifically necessarily all the places that we were going to go. But we ended up at all these different places and we ended up wandering into places where we just didn't know. And we ended up just stumbling upon just these beautiful moments of life just sort of exploding. And on this day, I got stung by a bee. I got stung by a bee on this day. I hadn't been stung by a bee since I was like a kid. Wasn't part of the plan. But now it's just kind of a funny thing. It was still a perfect day.
Yeah.
It was just like this getting stung by a bee was still perfect.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing. So it's like, try and find one of those moments in your life and really take a look at how that all unfolded. Mm-hmm. How some of it was control and some of it was a little bit of chaos. Mm-hmm. But for most of it, you were probably really there.
Yeah.
You were probably really there.
I think that it comes back down to the law of presence. I'm realizing we did all our artist laws and we talked all the ones that we've at least perceived at this point and gathered. But the law of presence just comes up so much for me with this conversation. And by the way, you can go back and listen to that talk if you want. But being in this moment is so much about what an honest pursuit is like when you're like allowing yourself to just be in the moment you're in. It can be a truly incredible thing. And I would tribute the craft of acting for that, because what acting taught me, whether I do anything with acting in the future or not, I don't know, but acting will forever have given me the gift of being okay with whatever the moment is. It really taught me to really run with that and see where that takes me and let that be. And I think that that's a lesson that every person, every human being can take, is that you can always just tap into presence. You can always just be there and be like, isn't this incredible? Like, even if it's not like what you perceive as good, but like, isn't it incredible that I'm here right now in this struggle, having this feeling, doing this thing? Like, isn't that like, and just like, let yourself like be in that, let it be everything that it is. And recognize that this moment right now you're having may never happen again. This may be the last time you ever get to experience this. And you might be in the end of a breakup, the beginning of a new relationship. You might be in any situation, but this moment right now may never happen ever again in your life. And you could be missing it. But if you just stop and let it be this fucking part of your journey to give you context and all sorts of wonderful things for everywhere you go, not only will you fully own this moment and potentially let it have its time, but it will allow you to move on to whatever your next is. I think that what happens is we get stuck in the moments we don't want to be in because we're unwilling to be in them. And the moments we love pass too fast because all we want to do is be in them. Mm-hmm. And the beauty, though, of good moments, because no one regrets a good moment, do they? Do they? Come on. No one does. Even if they pass super quick, we never regret them. So if you are in a series of good moments, you're just in a series of non-regret. So it's like a wonderful thing. I mean, it's really kind of the way to go. I mean, it is like you take a step and you're in this moment, and you're in this moment, and you're in this moment, and you're in this moment. And then, I experienced that one kind of before. And it's like, that one, that came back. Okay, this is new, and you're just like a child all of a sudden again. I mean, we all have these kind of weird little nostalgias of like being a child and how wonderful and open and free it was. Well, presence, man. I mean, being in this moment, letting it be entirely what it is, being entirely new. I mean, that is one of the first fundamental foundational steps of like living your life fully. I mean, children are so present, they're so present that like it looks like distraction to us as adults a lot of the time, but it's like, no, they're just like really honoring each moment a lot of the time.
Really paying attention.
Yeah.
Which is like so many, like wise philosophers and teachers like throughout time have said just like be like children.
Yeah.
Like be like kids.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of the reasons why we actually we try to nurture the concept of childhood in our culture, because we recognize that it's such a valuable time, and we want every person to have that experience, because we recognize that life gets complicated and it gets difficult and it gets challenging. And when you're a child, it's one of those moments where you get this brief period of kind of freedom to just be. And that's your kind of training. And some of us, we didn't get very good childhoods. Some of us got better ones, but like, whatever, man, it's never too late. Like it's, you can always give yourself your life.
Yeah.
And you don't have to like make excuses for that.
Yeah. It's never too late to be what you might have been. Are we wrapping this up?
I think so. I mean, that was kind of like the false ending. That was awesome. Is it over? Is it over? Oh no, they're still talking.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap it up, and let's kind of like, I don't know, share what we gathered.
Yeah, just close it out. I mean, I'll just go with something I said earlier, because that was sort of what really sticks out to me of something about regret in this whole conversation, is that really what it is saying is live your life. And to that, it's also saying you are not living your life, and you are not being who you're supposed to be.
Regret is.
Yeah, that's what regret is telling us. And in that way, it is a tremendous friend and advisor to us. And we just need to stop running through, because like that's what regret is actually saying. And then, but what we turn it into, what our egos turn it into, is you're not good enough. Like you should be better than this. You're a piece of shit, whatever it is.
Shames you.
It just, it turns it into shame. And it's like, and there's no reason to feel ashamed about this. It's like, accept the fact that, maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you did something that was out of your integrity, and maybe you've been doing it for a while. It's okay, because now you know. And that's like the fact that you know is incredible. Like it means that it was, whatever happened, it's worth it. Whatever happened was worth it, because now you know. So you can let that go. You can learn from it, accept your mistakes, accept your humanity, accept that you are a human being who has made mistakes, who is going to continue to make mistakes. But from now on, you can start to follow an honest path for yourself and begin to turn those regrets into just simply mistakes.
Nice. I mean, you wrapped up a lot of good stuff there. I would say that
move, Brandon.
Your move.
Your move.
Checkmate.
This is a competition, everybody. Just so you know, me and Brandon just try to outdo each other.
Who can close out better? No, we don't even do that at all. But no, but I mean, you wrapped up a lot of what we talked about. So, I mean, what I would say is that, I would give yourself the grace of recognizing that whatever got you to this point, you did the best you could. This was it. And nobody can ever ask you of any more, not even yourself. You did the best you could with what you were given. And even if you feel like you made mistakes or didn't do what you really wanted to do, That at the time was the best you could do. And now you are here right now in this moment. And all I can say is that it all can begin right now, once again, as it will begin again in the next moment, and the next, and the next. And I would just say, there's this funny little saying, and Evan knows it well because I said it once. This is your moment.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you got something out of this, if you feel it improved your life or your journey in any way, please take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, or share the episode.
You can also support us on Patreon, where we have tons of great bonuses. You are the ones that make the show possible and help us to thrive. Thank you for joining us.